So, what's the real difference between just a casual promise you make to a friend and a contract that's actually, legally binding? Well, it all comes down to this one crucial idea: mutual assent. Seriously, if you can get your head around this one concept, you're on your way to understanding the foundation of pretty much every contract out there. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, picture this. You agree to sell your car to a friend. You tell them the price, they say deal, and you shake hands on it. Seems like a done deal, right? But is it? This simple little scenario is exactly where the law gets really interesting, and it has a very specific way of figuring out the answer.
And that really is the big question, isn't it? How do we know for sure when a casual agreement crosses that line and becomes something a court could actually enforce? The legal principle that gives us the answer is mutual assent. Now, you've probably heard it described a little more poetically as a meeting of the minds. And honestly, that's a great way to think about it. It's kind of like the magic ingredient that turns a simple conversation into a real commitment. So, what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, it just means that everyone involved in the deal is on the exact same page about the important stuff: what's being offered, for how much, and what each person has to do. When that happens, that's when a promise gets its legal teeth. And you get there through a pretty simple two-step dance. First, somebody makes an offer with clear, definite terms. Something like, I will sell you this car for $10,000. Then the other person gives their acceptance. They have to agree to those exact terms. I accept. I'll buy that car for $10,000. Offer plus acceptance, that equals mutual assent. Seems straightforward, right? Well, there's a huge twist coming. Now, you might think that this whole meeting of the minds thing is all that matters, but that's not quite how the legal system sees it. Let's take a look at how courts actually decide if a deal was made, because I promise you it's probably not what you're expecting. And here it is, the most crucial point. Courts are not mind readers. They have absolutely no way of knowing what you were secretly thinking, or if you had your fingers crossed, or what your private intentions were when you shook that hand. So they had to come up with a different way to judge an agreement. And that way is called the objective theory of contract. This theory basically says that your agreement isn't judged by what was happening inside your head. Nope. It's judged by your outward expressions: what you said, what you wrote down, and what you did. The question is always, what would a reasonable person think based on your actions? So think of it like this. The law completely ignores your private, secret thoughts. Maybe you were just joking when you offered to sell your expensive watch for $50. But hey, if your words and your actions made that offer seem serious to a reasonable person, a court might just hold you to it. What really matters, the only thing that matters, is what the law can actually see and prove: your outward actions and your words. So how do you actually show this outward agreement? Well, the most obvious way is through an express agreement. This is when you use clear words, whether it's signing a long, formal document or just looking someone in the eye and saying, yes, I agree. It's direct, it's clear, and it leaves very little room for doubt. But you don't always need words. Assent can also be implied just by your actions. Think about it. When you order food at a restaurant, you don't sign a contract. Your conduct, the simple act of ordering off the menu, implies a promise to pay the price. And the restaurant bringing you the food, that's them accepting your offer. And just like that, a contract is formed, entirely through your actions. And finally, of course, there's negotiation. Most big deals involve a lot of back and forth, with offers and counteroffers flying around until both sides land on a final version they can live with. Now, each one of those counteroffers technically rejects the one before it. So it's only that final agreement, the one where everyone finally says yes, that represents the real, legally recognized deal. Okay, so why is this objective standard so incredibly important? I mean, why does the law care so much about what you show and not what you think? Well, because mutual assent isn't just some dusty legal technicality. It is the absolute bedrock of trust in our entire commercial world. It really all boils down to three big things. First, it gives us legal enforceability. Without this outward proof, a contract just can't be upheld in court. Second, it creates clarity and certainty, making sure everyone knows their exact rights and responsibilities. And third, it builds commercial trust, which allows people and businesses to rely on each other's promises. That's literally what makes our economy function. So after all of that, what's the one thing you absolutely have to remember? If we boil this whole explainer down to its most essential point, what would it be? If you take away just one thing, let it be this. In the world of contracts, it is never about what you privately think. It is always about what you communicate through your words and through your actions. That right there is the golden rule. And that leaves us with one final, really powerful question you can ask yourself in any situation. So when you're looking at a potential deal, don't ask, what was everyone thinking? Instead, ask yourself this. Did both parties clearly show, through their words and their actions, that they agreed to the exact same thing? If the answer is yes, well, you probably have a contract.